Anyway, so one of kind of the guiding themes of your campaign is opposition to regime change wars. You say that term over and over again, but my question is, what about more conventional warfare, meaning warfare that's not necessarily intended to overthrow a government, but nevertheless, repeated bombing of whether it's Somalia or Yemen or in other places that seen a lot of drone warfare since 9/11, Pakistan, etc. Those actions also produce blowback, which may radicalize the populace and lead them to embrace radical forms of Islam, for example, and then potentially even carry out retaliatory attacks against the U.S. So what about those non-regime change military and foreign policy actions that also have detrimental consequences? How does that factor into your analysis?
Yeah. I think we've got to be clear-eyed and pragmatic about the threats that face our security, the security of the American people, and we've got to be smart about how we're approaching and defeating those threats. There are a number of different places in the world where we are seeing terrorist groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda and other forms or branches off of those terrorist groups who do pose that threat. We've got to be smart in how we're addressing it in a couple of ways, both militarily, but also how we're addressing the ideology that is fueling and providing that fertile recruiting ground for these kinds of terrorist groups. This is why I've been so outspoken about Saudi Arabia. This is so important because people in Washington never talk about the fact that Saudi Arabia continues to spend billions of dollars on spreading this Wahhabi Salafist ideology that if you look at these different terrorist groups in different parts of the world, this is the common thread that connects them.
And Wahhabi Islam is very much distinct from the popular forms of Islam that are practiced around the world. So those should not be conflated.
Majority. Right. Not at all. Not at all. And that's why it's important for us to be specific about this ideology that is so exclusivist, that does not represent the majority of Islam, and that really is the ideology adhered to by these terrorist groups.